Hello and welcome. I'm Katie Gray, and today I want to talk to you about the process of healing and the importance of feeling pain. If you are living in pain and you're struggling and you're dealing with grief and shame and insecurity and addiction and whatever it is, you're living in a state of pain. So for us to think of healing as involving pain, that may sound crazy. I'll explain. When we're experiencing something like shame or addiction, we can relate it back to trauma. It always stems back to an experience that caused that pain. For many of us, when we've experienced trauma, we don't want to feel the pain. It's so uncomfortable. We don't want to be uncomfortable, and we also are not resourced. Maybe we don't have the support we need, the connection, the release, the comfort. So we learn how to avoid and turn it off. And that's where the trouble begins. We've learned how to separate from ourselves, not just the pain, but ourselves. If we're hurting and we're learning to turn off the pain, we're learning to separate from ourselves, to separate from presence, to separate from sensitivity and connection with ourselves in order to avoid being uncomfortable. And we move away from ourselves. We move into avoidance. I call that the protection. We go into protection because something happened that was likely scary and uncomfortable, and I don't want to be uncomfortable. I don't want to be in pain, so I'll try not to think about it. I'll pretend it didn't happen. I'll stay distracted. Maybe I'll turn to something that feels comforting and good. Deep down, I need connection. I need to know I'm safe. I need to be resourced and feel whole again. But if I'm looking for some way, if I don't have my needs met and I don't have the real support I need, I'm going to learn how to turn off the pain. And for any of us dealing with addiction, I dealt with addiction for a long time, there's an innocent desire to not feel pain. And we think that it's working. Somehow, if I just take this pill or I have this drink, or I open up the fridge and have this food, or smoke the cigarette or scroll through social media or just stay busy working, I don't feel in pain. I feel kind of happy. I feel good. I feel distracted. I'm not feeling the discomfort. And the reality is, when we avoid pain, it doesn't actually go away. It gets buried deep inside of ourselves. So if you've learned to avoid and turn off the pain, you're temporarily silencing it, but you're not truly healing and excavating and healing. You're not resolving that trauma. You're not feeling ultimately better and whole. You're just avoiding pain. So in order to heal, the process, the experience of healing, to genuinely heal, we have to come in contact with pain. And I'll tell you right now, if you've learned to find temporary comfort, to avoid being uncomfortable, teaching yourself to be present and in the presence of yourself when you're hurting is going to be very uncomfortable. And it may take practice. Because as soon as those uncomfortable feelings arise, you're going to want to turn them off. I'll use myself as an example. I dealt with a lot of pain, a lot of emotional abuse and physical abuse, and there was a lot of pain that happened in my early life, and we didn't talk about it. I learned how to not talk about it, how to pretend it didn't happen, how to bury the truth of that story and that pain. And what ended up happening is I just pushed it down, but I still feel it, whether consciously or unconsciously. I'm still in pain. So now I'm just turning to comfort. For me, I was addicted to food for many years, almost 2 decades, almost 20 years, and I had bulimia for most of that time period. So I'm just binge eating, trying to turn off the pain, trying to keep myself in a distracted state of temporary comfort. Temporary comfort so I can convince myself I'm comfortable when really I'm not comfortable. I'm very uncomfortable. And it's not genuinely resolving the situation inside. It's just living in a state of discomfort and pain for a very long time. So once again, in order to get to that place of truly being healed, of truly recovering, we have to make eye contact and introduce ourselves and build a relationship with the tender part of us who is hurting. We have to lean in and listen where we've learned to avoid and distract. We have to open ourselves to be compassionate where we've learned to be judgmental. We have to stay put and be where we've learned to act fast and do. Where we've learned to go away, go outside of ourselves. We have to stay close. We have to feel. Sometimes I say, if you're ready to heal, get ready to feel. And it's true. And that may be one of the hardest parts, but the most important in the healing process. Healing emotionally, mentally, is letting ourselves be uncomfortable and to breathe through it. Oh man, you might twist and turn in the beginning and you might just want to, get out of here. Suddenly you're hungry, suddenly you're thirsty, you're thinking of all the things you need to do. Anything but be with your feelings. And that's kind of the nature of healing in general, of being healthy, is building a relationship with discomfort. Another way, another perspective that may make this help you to understand this, imagine that you're physically unhealthy and you want to get in shape. I want to work out, I want to be fit, I want my muscles to be strong, I want my heart to be strong, my lung capacity to be strong, I want to have flexible joints, I want to have the ability to run, okay? Let's imagine you've been avoiding physical exercise for a long time. In order to get healthy and build a healthy relationship with your physical body, similar to your emotional body and your mental body, you may have to get uncomfortable and it may hurt. You may have to be present even when it hurts. And for a lot of us, we don't want to work out, and we don't work out because we're avoiding discomfort. And a lot of us are struggling emotionally with our emotional mental health because we're avoiding being uncomfortable. We're avoiding that pain. But if we want to be emotionally healthy, mentally healthy, physically healthy, we want to heal, we have to build that relationship with pain. We have to lean in, we have to get uncomfortable, and gradually, the more we do that, we start to get more comfortable being uncomfortable. And it is a process. You know, our goal in healing isn't to just temporarily fix a problem. You know, it's not just to stop doing a destructive habit. The goal, the bigger goal in life is to be emotionally healthy. Not just to heal, but to be healthy, to be mentally healthy, because life will include trauma and it will include pain. It will be painful. And you may look at some people and think they don't deal with pain, they're not struggling, but they are. They may not show it, but pain is a part of life, and every single one of us will have to be in contact, will have to experience pain. Because death is a part of life. And if you've ever lost a loved one, whether through death or a breakup or a divorce, you know that grief, that pain that comes with loss. Death is a part of life. Pain is a part of life. Trauma will happen again and again. And it would be so amazing if we could just flip a switch or press a button or take a pill and just not have to experience any more pain. And many of us are trying. If you're actively dealing with addiction, likely you're trying to figure out a way to live life without experiencing pain. And it's not the case. Nor should that be your goal. More constructively, the goal is to be confident, compassionate, and present through the life experience, to be mentally, emotionally healthy and strong and empowered, even if and when it's uncomfortable and painful. And when we do that, when we teach ourselves and train ourselves, and it may take a while, day one, okay, those feelings are coming up. I'm learning to be present and to feel, to stay still. Okay, lean in, breathe through it. Breathing, writing in your journal, letting yourself cry. Build a relationship with your tender self that's hurting. The more you do that, day 1, day 2, week 1, week 6, month 6, now you've moved into a year of just practicing and training, like physical strength building. You are mentally, emotionally strength building. You become stronger, you become more empowered, you become more trusting of yourself and your capacity to remain present when it's uncomfortable. And the definition of self-trust is self-confidence. So you start to gain confidence in yourself. No longer are you living in fear, running away from uncomfortable experiences and from the pain inside of yourself. Now, you're starting to look life in the eyes and recognize it's going to be uncomfortable. And I trust that I'm going to be okay when it happens, because I will not abandon myself in a time of crisis. I've learned how to be a better listener, how to be more respectful, how to show up and how to feel, how to allow myself to feel those feelings when they occur, how to trust that I'm capable and able. When you're able to do that, you're resourced, you're able to live life when it's uncomfortable, rather than running away, rather than dividing away from yourself in a time of crisis and turning to a substance or some way to turn it off. It doesn't go away. The pain stays inside of us until we give it a safe space to be heard and to be released. And that's what you're learning to do. That's why healing requires us to experience pain and discomfort, to be more comfortable being uncomfortable, to building a relationship with ourselves that's resilient, that's empowered, that's confident, that's trusting. Gradually we become healthier. And when it happens, when it gets really painful, you don't divide away from yourself and fall into a deep, heavy, divide of depression and addiction. You may have to grieve for a while. I'm not saying that life won't require grieving, but you'll do it with love, you'll do it with consciousness, and you'll stay close to yourself, and you'll get through it a lot quicker. Okay? So, the goal is healing. The bigger goal is to become healthy through the process of building a deeper relationship with ourselves that requires getting comfortable, being uncomfortable, building trust and confidence in ourselves so that we can show up and be present through the experience of life. Okay, I hope this made sense. I hope it's helpful for you. I hope you're able to feel inspired, and I hope you lean in. Be a good friend to yourself. Be a good listener. If pain arises, if you feel grief, shame, if you feel uncomfortable, feel compassion. Listen. Feel that. Let yourself cry. Let yourself process. You don't need to avoid it. You're strong. You're wise. You're powerful. You're a loving being. Keep practicing. You'll get there. You'll get stronger and more empowered through the process, healthier. Okay, lots of love. Thank you so much.